Good afternoon, everybody. We are back. I never realised how good a pattern tastes when you can't finish it. Halfway through, I've just hit the meat. No, that's hard. And we're back. Those of you who've just arrived, you missed the morning. It was very good this morning. And the speakers this morning were all amazing. But this afternoon's just been as interesting and informative. Before I introduce you all to the front, Jay, have I said the pattern taste like you just started in? You're on next. I wanted you to introduce you to Jay. For those who just arrived, Jay successfully challenged me earlier today. And Jay's going to talk to you about the work her organisation does, and then you can finish your patty at the school wall.
Hi, my name's Jay. I work for the BRIXTON Trust, so we're a national charity that helps young people to live. I'm just here today to kind of promote some of our opportunities that we have for young people. We kind of run in a 4-stage basis, so we have get intos, which is kind of getting young people into different career paths, get started, which is more about them kind of getting started in something that they might like but they're not too sure about. For example, like we have get started in media, whereas they'll find out about the media industry as a whole throughout our program and then start to figure out where they might want to place themselves in that career. But we'll also find out if it's not something that they want to do. We also do enterprise program, which is for 18 to 30-year-olds, which gives them an opportunity to go through business plans, so talk about their business idea, and they get given a business mentor, which then helps them formulate a whole business plan, and then they can potentially apply from the grant from the trust, which is a low interest grant. So if the young person does actually feel like after they've done their business plan that I can actually start putting this business to run, once they get the grant, if their business is successful and they start trading or they start to earn, they have to pay the grant back in low interest. However, if it's not successful, they don't have to pay the grant back. So it's kind of way better than them taking out a loan from the bank, because you have to pay it back regardless if your business is successful or not. Then we also have team programs and Explore, which is one of the programs that I run. So team is a 12-week personal development program, and basically it helps young people who are low in confidence, don't know where they want to go in life, what they want to do, they struggle with social skills. It's all about like teamwork, team building, and every week is different throughout the 12 weeks. So like the first week, they get to know their team, they go on a residential. In week 2, then they do community projects, which get them out into their community, kind of for them to understand how to give back to their communities. So some of my young people have done things like going to a local church and just cleaning up the yard to make sure it's nice, or going to a nursery and like repainting sheds and playgrounds, things like that, kind of give back. Then they go on 2 weeks work experience, as well as them doing the cheat challenge, which is fundraising. And then at the end, they have a final presentation, which is their chance to kind of tell their loved ones and everyone what they've done throughout the 12 weeks, and I look with them on their next steps. Yeah, that's the kind of programs that the trust does as a whole, but the trust is so big that we have so many different programs. So young people come to me and say they want to do this and they want to do that. We probably have a program for it. Yeah, so that's kind of the trust in the long form. I'm a youth development lead, so if any of you do have young people that may be interested in any of our programs, or you have a query about a program that we may or might not have, I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, and I'm kind of just saying just to expand on that.
Oh, brilliant, Jay. So many things. Just a quick question, Jay. How many, on average, you might know today, how many black families engage in the trust?
I couldn't give you an exact statistic, but in our centres, we do have a lot of black young people. I wouldn't necessarily say families, because sometimes young people reach out to us on their own.
Yeah.
However, we do have a lot more black people in our programs. I run the South Coast, so I look after young people in like Isle of Wight, Weymouth, Basingstoke, which is really, really far from London. But it's just given me an experience to find out what young people down those sides kind of deal with, and kind of relate it back to what goes on in London. Obviously, they have different needs, however they do kind of like combine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you go to those type of provisions, there's less BAME young people, which is just, I guess, down to their area, like Isle of Wight is excluded, so yeah.
It's a shame because we asked that question because the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, Princess Trust, we don't always engage in it as much as we should do. And even with the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, it's a base for future success, believe it or not. I know it's the Duke of Edinburgh, it's all about the realm, but still, it's an opportunity to develop people. I did some research about 2 years ago around the number of people that get involved in apprenticeships. 4.5% of faculty engaged in apprenticeships. You know the apprenticeships that are £40,000 a year? You can do a degree apprenticeship and get paid £40,000 a year. You know that existed? Yes, it does. There's an apprentice at Northampton University that launched an apprenticeship last year, £50,000 a year, 3-year apprenticeship. So if you do that apprenticeship, you get £50,000 every year as a wage, that apprenticeship. You've got a phone in hand, just go www.blackintoapprenticeship.org. Blackintoapprenticeship.org. It lists all the apprenticeships that are available that your child can apply for or you can apply for. What age can you not apply for an apprenticeship? Anybody know? What age can you not?
25.
83. 83. Anybody can do an apprenticeship, not children, but anybody can do an apprenticeship. If you've got a degree, blackintoapprenticeship.org. You should see a basketball player. It's been designed for young people to look at the site. But anybody can do an apprenticeship. You work for an organisation, you work at a council, you can go to your manager and say, I want to do an apprenticeship in masters. I want to do a master apprenticeship. And then they don't have to fund it. It's funded by the levy. So it doesn't cost any money, because every organisation pays into what they call the apprenticeship levy. And the idea is that you train staff internally. So, go to your bosses and say, I want to do a master's, I've got a degree, can I do an apprenticeship? Blackintoapprenticeship.org, are you in there yet? Anyone got it yet? Yeah, what do you think of the website?
It's nice.
I built it.
You built it.
Yeah, I like to make it that. So, get your young people to look at it, connect with us. We offer mentoring. Quentin's part of this stream as well. We offer mentoring and we find people to mentor people. We help people who've not got the grades yet. We'll help them do the grades. We encourage people to do T-levels, because T-levels is an entry into a degree apprenticeship if you can't do your A-levels. So there's lots of different routes to support people to get into a paid apprenticeship. Because I can't afford to put another child through university. I've done 6 already. There's one more, I can't afford it now. I'm nearly broke. So they can get their degree and their money at the same time. That's brilliant. That's me. My next guest. Thank you. Yeah, give me a clap. Come on. Not about me. It's about my next guest. I want to introduce Dawn to you, Dawn. It's one of those names that sound beautiful, especially when you say it correctly. I want to invite you to the front to talk about your work. And what we've had today, we've had many people inspire us in different ways. And you know, what Paul's got to offer to you today should help you on your journey into the dream that you want to aspire to and do. So, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Bjorn. I am the founder for Black Employ. Black Employ is a service that actually helps people from the urban communities into employment. So if you need any help or support around doing your CVs, application supports, getting work experience, I'll be able to do that for you. And how it all works is that I'll actually go out and meet employers on your behalf. So if you feel that there's a field, a particular field, it could be construction, hospitality, it doesn't matter what field it is, and you have an interest into it, my thing is that I will go out and reach out to certain employers, as I've been in the field for over 20 years and helping and supporting people in the community into employment. So with my contacts and the links that I have already, I will go out to them and say to them, look, I've got someone, they're very interested, can we put up a program, like a work placement or a work program for anything up to 6 to 3 months to help and support you to gain the experience that you need, and from there I will help and support you moving on within that same role. So one of the main things that will happen, some of us will have the experiences but we just don't have, or have the qualification or not the experience, and that's where it's Black Employ helps to actually bridge that gap and actually to help you to actually prolong that career path and keep on moving forward with it. Even if you do not have the experience, I can still be able to help and sit down with you on a one-to-one basis and look at your career goals. Let's look at what skills you have. Many of us, we've all got a talent. Every single one of us has a talent. All it is just that we need just to tap into it, find what you really like to do, and that's the area that we go. Many times we get opportunities to us or put to us, and it takes a while for us to actually find what we actually love to do. So my aim and my goal and what Black Youth Play does is that we will sit down with you. I'll draw out all the skills. Some of us will do that talking. Some of us are at doing things with our hands. Very hands-on. Some of us can do things in a different area. It doesn't have to actually be working a 9 to 5. Even if you wanted to start a business and so forth, everyone's got something to add. Yeah. So that is what Black Employer is about. So we go on that journey with you. I get in contact with employers with the pool that I have and introduce you to the employer and make sure that one of the main things for me is that you're getting paid whilst you're getting trained. Yeah? So it's not just a thing you're going into a working environment and you just get left there. No, there will be a program around fit for you that's going to be worked through with the employer, me and yourself, for you to achieve your goal. Yeah?
Thank you. And we're all about not exploiting people, and we said that you get paid while you work. It's really important we do that because too often in the old days apprenticeship wasn't about payment, it was about the skill. We're saying now it's a different world, so we need to maximise that. So connect. I can't tell you, I can't give you a job somewhere to work. You can do that for somebody. You could do that, and that's what we need to do. What did Chris say? The second point was action. In Chris's talk this morning, he mentioned, it's about doing. We have to start doing, and to have you as part of this journey of us is absolutely amazing. So please connect. You've got a contact.
I've got some flyers. I can hand out some flyers to you guys. Anyone's interested? Yeah. We can sit down and have a talk.
And please share beyond this meeting. So if you've grabbed something and you say to somebody else, I just met a guy today, and they say this, connect. Spread the word. We can spread the word about other things. And spread the word about positive things. Yeah. Okay. Any questions, young man? Any questions?
My question is, what was the inspiration for you to start Black Employer?
Okay, so over a period of 20 years of being in the employment field, with all the employers that I worked with, there wasn't people of colour. In all the people I was helping over the years, and everyone who was getting into jobs, they weren't people of colour. And there's something that actually said to me because, alright, so recently I've been working with private companies, so law firms, and one of the things that I learned from a lot of them, they see things on the news but don't understand it. They will see people on the streets and they don't understand it. They just do not have a clue regarding about where we come from, the battles and the struggles that we have to do as Black people to get into these kinds of environments. And I help them to break that kind of mold to say, look, regardless of what is happening, as long as the right help and support is around that individual, that person can be successful. So that was one of my main goals to start Black Youth Play, is to make sure that people of colour are actually within these kind of environments. So we're talking, from anything from law firms to within the construction field, from hospitality, and it's not just about us starting at the low level as well, but that's where a lot of us will start within their roles and we can't see progression. And that's one of the problems I did see as well, that we're not actually progressing. We're not progressing to be managers. We're not progressing to be supervisors. We're not progressing to be the CEO of the company, or even have that experience to say, you know what, I can do it myself now. Yeah? So it's about us getting that experience, getting that knowledge, and be able to do it for ourselves.
And that's really important. So let's not think that glass ceiling still exists. We can break through it. Many people have. Many people have broken that glass ceiling because management is an opportunity for us. It's not easy, trust me, it's not easy. You've got to work a bit harder. But if you give up, you won't get there. If you don't give up, you'll get there. Yes?
I think I did before.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Your hand's so low down.
I think it's on the team. Okay. We work with families that have children with challenging behaviours and really crisis situations. We
reality is that a lot of the young people will be coming out of prison, and because they've got track record, it's difficult for them to even get their foot in the door. So in light of your role, how does that barrier, how's that barrier broken, if it's
All right.
possible?
So one of the main things, depending on the environment where they're at, one of the things that what's been very successful for me is that I go to an employer and say, look, I've got a work program, yeah? And majority of any employer, they have a fund to help people who are disadvantaged. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of companies that get funding from government, there's an area in where they're meant to help people within the inner city communities. And that's where that can help them to meet their quota, or that can help them to meet their community responsibility. So that's where I can tap into to say, look, you've got a client group who you can target. These are, here they are. Let's put something in place, i.e. a work program, anything up to 3 to 6 months to help support this client group. One of the key areas, as myself, as somebody who has spent time in prison, and I understand about that stigma of trying to actually having that, you know, you've come from a correctional facility and then you're trying to get yourself on the straight and narrow. A lot of employers will see that, but they don't know how to overcome that. And it's about someone like myself and others who can go in there and say, look, if we put the right things in place, this person will be successful. So it's i.e., say for instance, a program that I've just run recently. So the employers will find someone within the company for that person to be shadowed under. I will normally be like a manager. And then where I would fit in, I will put things in place where I will be in contact with that person and the manager on a weekly basis. So on a weekly basis now, it will be a thing of seeing how that person is doing. Can that person go to the manager and actually freely have that conversation if there's any areas within the job role that they might need help and support with. So it's these little things just to overcome that stigma, that barrier. And once that person becomes successful, it's that butterfly effect where they will say, okay, we'll take on another person, or we've got another position in this area of the job where we need to take in more people. Let's put it that way. So for me, it has never really been a barrier for myself because it's the way how I think, yeah? So for me, I think on the solution more than the problem. How can we overcome that? And I'm more solution focused. So that's where it's about showing the employer how we can do that and how we can work and overcome that person that's been, released from a prison facility.
Okay, thank you.
Before Gwenton, Jay?
I was just going to ask, so when they do get these work experience, like the program part of it, is this them working towards a permanent necessary role within that company, or is it kind of down to how, I guess it kind of takes into tact how like they work on while they're there, but is it a thing where it could be, is it something that's offered from early on, or is it something that might just come over time?
Majority of the companies that I have worked with, they have the funding for a permanent staff member. So depending whatever sector it is, it's really for that person to become permanent. Sometimes they only have the budget to have it up to 6 months, but it benefits them to have somebody coming from this type of environment to be successful within their business, because it shows that they can lead the way. Plus, it helps them as well to gain more funding. So it works both ways. But my aim also is for permanent. I don't want to actually get somebody in for the next 6 months and then what else do we do? It's about how can we progress. Is there other areas where that person might be able to use their skills within the company?
Gwenton, a question?
Yeah, just wanted to match up what both of you have just said, the last 2 speakers. Most of my clients have got special needs, so whether it's ADHD or Asperger's or whatever else. So a lot of them would need more support to actually get into employment than the average person. So we've also got adults that are late diagnosed with these things, so it's not as easy for someone that's just discovered that they can't sit still because they've got some form of autism. So we also got services that will support them to support you to get them into work. Yeah, so anyone that's got family members and you know that they've got additional needs, still make sure that they know that they're welcome to apply, and then we'll get services to support them to get into work. And with what the previous speaker said, what Link's in is, not everyone will go and work for someone, but what a lot of people don't remember is that once you're under 25, you're entitled to apply for that money. Yeah? So there's something to emphasize on. All of us in here might know the young person who've got children ourselves. Make sure they all go and apply for some of that money that they're entitled to.
I just have a say on that as well. So under the Mental Health Act, majority of employers are meant to take on someone. Okay? Alright? They are meant to take on somebody that has, if somebody comes to them and somebody applies and puts that on their application that they have mental health, they cannot discriminate. That is one of the main things which a lot of employers nowadays, they try to go around it. But if there's somebody who can highlight to them to say, look, this person might have the need that they need in-work support, because that's what it's called, in-work support. So that person will be able to, it could be anything. Now that we've got hybrid working, it's a thing that person might be able to do 3 days within the office and then 2 days at home, just because of their need. So just be aware of that as well.
I think it was a coma, because I had a young man, he's 23, and he wanted to work in Tesco near his house. And we went in there, he's got OCD and all of this stuff, and they had to employ him because they didn't meet their quota for
Under the Mental Health Act.
And he's now in Tesco in the meat department doing well, but when he's at home, he has to wear gloves and don't want to touch his phone, but in Tesco it's fine.
It's the environment.
But also that also relates to the Equal Opportunities Act that all companies have are signed up to the Equal Opportunities Act, which means whatever your colour is, your sex, your race, if you've got a disability, transgender, any of the isms that is under the Diversity Act, all companies have to have a person from that particular area working in their organisation to meet quota. And if they don't have, that's another way that you're able to get in there as well. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about in terms of, we was talking, or something that was mentioned, is that in terms of lots of people that have entered the criminal justice system, what we found, I don't have figures, but what I'm aware of, that there's a high percentage of people that have entered the criminal justice system, and a lot of it came from the fact that they wasn't able to read. You heard Chris talking about being an author and not reading. If he'd read earlier, things could have been different for him. But what we find is that children become, when people are children short of being adults, is that people become disengaged because they're not able to read the curriculum and it's not picked up early enough, because the systems that we have in this country, in other countries, you can't pass your class unless you can read up to a certain point, and that's how you're able to go into the next level. But in this country, you can move on to the next sex without having to do that, and then it's misguided and it's covered. And what children then do, they start to act out and behave, and they become the children that potentially end up in PRUs or get suspended or excluded from school because they are behaving negatively because they can't read or write related to the information that they're being taught in school. And this goes on and on and on and on, and they are not seen, and they end up in prison because of that particular factor. And you'll find even in prison, they don't necessarily access the curriculum because you're in there with the man them, and you don't want a certain man to know, even though man them and man them and man them are all in the same boat, but nobody wants anybody to know necessarily that they can't read, because the other side of it is that people talk and you go out road and say this, that, and then one wants to be the big man, and so what we find is that is something that impacts on people quite a lot.
The government, I heard the LBC, so don't call me. The government, as of last week, have now offered, and we've got you in the room to qualify this,
I've heard of people talking about reading letters that have come from their family members and they've had to read it to their cellmates because their cellmates aren't able to read.
And I also like to point out there are some very intelligent people in prison also that have got degrees.
Sorry, say that again?
Yeah, very intelligent people in prison
Oh,
also
yes.
who've got degrees and doctorates, and they're still criminals.
But I would say, just on that, I would say, don't make that because you can't read or write stop you.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't make that because you can't read or write stop you. I was diagnosed by a professor with
There you go.
dyslexia.
You was diagnosed what, sorry?
Dyslexia.
I was diagnosed with dyslexia by a professor. I went under the training and the
At what age?
examination. I was in my 20s. I was definitely in my early 20s. But that didn't stop me. You know, that didn't stop me from achieving where I am now. You know, I manage teams now. Yeah. So don't make that stop you.
And what Ron's got, he's got the ability to get companies to recognise that their CSR, their corporate social responsibility, can be used for their work. And most companies don't know what to do with that money, so they build a tree. Or they plant a tree, or they do something green.
They do something.
But you can say, use your CSR to engage with 10 people in your organisation. Cost them nothing. So connect with this man, phenomenal experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
No worries.
Okay, before we go to the panel session, I just want to bring one more person up to the front. It's off agenda, but I think it's really important as she's here, we can get to talk about construction and routes into construction. Because this is all about giving people opportunities to move on into bigger and better things. Althea? And by the way, this lady's rushed from school. Her sister, the chair comes at the school as well. They're being Ofsteded as we speak. And she rushed over here to be here while the school's been Ofsteded. And she'll go back there and have to report back, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is JCRSUBMIT. I am a community activist. But when you're talking about construction work, I have a direct contact with British Land. So at the moment, British Land is doing development in Surrey Keys. They've got a contract for 20 years. So I get British Land to scale people up to do the CIA card, to get a construction card, and then he employs you to work there for as long. If you don't work on Surrey Keys site, you can go to other sites around London. So they actually scale you up. Majority of the people that feel like they can't pass the test is because they're dyslexic. Because there's one thing I learned is that you're a drug dealer. You can count money, but you're dyslexic. But no one messes with your money, because if they mess with your money, that's when the stabbings occur, that's when the gunshot, blah, 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 goes. So therefore, what we're trying to say is that the manager at Surrey Key is dyslexic. He was born in Bermondsey. He lives in Bermondsey. And he works in Bermondsey, and there is a manager for a construction site. And when I go down there and I speak to John, John said to me, you know, Althea, I used to go to school, and my mom would walk me to the school gate, and as soon as she left, I dropped the fence. But when she comes to college back in the evening, I'm back at the school gate to meet her, because she thinks I've been at school all day. But I wasn't. And now, what he's trying to say to us, that said, anyone can do it, because he done it. He was dyslexic, he was doing all the naughty things, and now he's actually manager for a site. So if anyone is interested, I've got a company, apart from my governor's hat, I've got a company called At a Cost Food Limited. At a cost, it means that you can do anything at a cost. So we make sauce, we got clothes company, we have designs, and we encourage people to get involved, to be your own boss, be your own entrepreneur. And we find out ways to get money. So we work with King's College London, we work with Guy's Hospital, and they have a lot of researchers who like to research things into diabetes, hypertension, and so on. And while they're asking you questions, they pay you. So they pay you for your question, they pay you for your answers, and then they'll set a group of, like, we've got this place called the Giving Lab. There's supposed to be one in Lambeth, but I don't know about the Lambeth side, I know about the Southwark side. So there's a place called the Giving Lab. And what the Giving Lab does, they want to hear your ideas. So you put your ideas on the table, so you say, oh, I want to write a book. But I want to write a book because I want to look at the well-being of the people in Brixton. and they will say, how are you going to do it? So you put the ideas on paper, and they literally pay you for your idea. If you're an individual on your own, you can get £10,000 to go and start your project. But if you're three of you together, then you'll have to share the £10,000. So those are the sort of things that are in the community that you can source, you can start your own business. If you come out of prison, most of the employers want to say, if you're working with vulnerable or children or adults, they want DBS. We're trying to cut it out to say that then you don't need to have DBS checks. So we're trying to say, let's cut the DBS out for people who are coming out of prison and who want to do something, want to give back something to the community, but they find it difficult to get a job. So I'm here, Quinton and Anthony knows my contact details, and if anyone is interested, I'm willing to support them here.
What I can tell you, this is a former mayor, by the way. She keeps that very quiet. But it was a former mayor and has done some amazing things in the community. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all.
I was going to ask you about the idea. You see, if you give your idea, do they have ownership of it, or do you still have ownership of it?
No, it's your idea because it's your project, and you're working yourself with your idea to be an entrepreneur, to be your own business person, and they later on they will say to you, after that 10,000 may be finished, you can go back and ask for some money, or maybe they'll factor it for some places that have money. But the reason that guys like St. Thomas is doing that because by getting your idea on paper, it's less people going to tackle people there.
Okay.
So they're cutting the rate of people that goes to accidents and emergencies.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very, very much, Anthea. Thank you very much. Okay, we now come to the part where it's the panel discussion. So, can I just say there's still food at the back there to be, what cake is that? Is that coffee morning? I'll be out there in a second.
Preparing stuff for the
Rum cake from Kingston, Jamaica. Banana cake as well.
Okay, I'll be out in a minute.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass over to my co-host now, so I can go get the cake.
Part of the panel. So this part of the discussion is a panel discussion it's a discussion for us all to kind of talk about different elements of life and justice. Sorry?
You wanna jump on the panel? Yeah. Huh? You sure? Oh.
You're putting him on the spot. So, and it's just to kind of talk about different aspects of life and different things that it can impact, but also one of the areas that I thought was important to talk about was sorry and forgiveness, because I was talking to somebody that came from the prison, actually Chris, I was talking to Chris before who had to leave, and one of the things he talked about, if you might remember, is that he asked everyone to clap for his mum, because the reason why he ended up turning his life around was because of his mum. And one of the things that he talked about was that he had to apologise to his mum for what he had put her through. And what kind of came to me at the first event that we kind of did was the word sorry and how that impacts on us as a people in terms of when we do things, how it can help us to make change and progress, or how it necessarily doesn't. Because we don't necessarily look at what we do in our life and how it impacts on others around us, you know. And something that kind of struck me was that, so I say that I'm part of the 3 a.m. club. So I get up at 2:45 in the morning and I will fight to go back to sleep, but I don't necessarily go back to sleep, and then I'm up after 3 and then I'm awake for the rest of the evening. So now I've stopped fighting it, and I just get up and I get on with activities that I need to do, and I'm trying to line up things that I've got something to do at 3 o'clock in the morning, because there's no point wasting it trying to sleep when I know that I can't sleep. But I was reflecting on my life and I was trying to think, what is it why I wake up at this time? And I always call myself the neighbourhood watch because if anything happens, I am at the window. I hear the slight thing. We used to have this paving stone in our pathway, and what would happen is when someone walks on it, it kind of makes a noise. You can kind of hear it. And that would alert me if someone was at my door. But one of the things that used to happen as a child growing up was that the police would come to my door and not knock the door. They have kicked off the door, they have knocked down the door. So even now when the postman comes and he knocks on the knocker, I'm like, what are you knocking the door like that for? Are you the police? Because it brings back memories of the police knocking down my door and for the whole estate hearing my front door being knocked. And it's like everybody knows what's happening at my door. And I feel like when I've reflected on it, it's shameful. I don't want everybody to know that there's somebody at my door. And even my neighbour, she's got a Ring doorbell. And every time someone comes to her front door, that doorbell rings. And I said to her one time, why's your doorbell so loud? Because every time someone comes to your door, I know that someone's at your door. Why do you want people to know that there's somebody at your door? But anyway, that is probably a reflection on me because of what I have experienced. And I say this to say that I don't know if me waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning is because I am part of the 3 a.m. club, or it's because of the trauma that I've experienced in terms of my door being knocked at all hours of the morning with the police coming to my house, you know, to find out if someone's here or to collect somebody or whatever the case may be. And that was something that resonated with me, and I wanted to kind of touch on that, to kind of look at the impact of what we do and how it impacts on others. So I just kind of wanted to ask you guys, in terms of your experiences, how has it been for you in terms of the impact that your life has caused on people around you, your family, your friends, your partners? I know, Chris, you already touched on your children and how you've felt that maybe what happened in your life, if that impacted on your children or if it was a result of them ending up in prison and stuff like that. But so just to kind of go into that, the impact and the word sorry and forgiveness, if that's ever something that's kind of come up or anything like that for yourselves. Well, no, I'm not picking it, and feel free to.
You said you felt sorry. Me and you've had this conversation.
Yeah, well, we have had this conversation, but we...
For me, I didn't feel sorry about what I done, and I didn't feel that I had to apologize to no one. I am one of many siblings, and I was a product of the environment of which I had to live in. So nobody apologized to me for getting the house raided or bringing police to the house. So I've never felt that I've had to apologize to no one. If anything, by making a success of my life, I've then apologized to them in that way, by whether it's financially or making sure that their dreams come to life. They wanted to write a book, do a documentary. I was able to do that. But to say sorry to somebody, I find that, no, I don't really think that. And the people that I was supposedly harming on the street, if anything, I was doing a good job. They shouldn't have been selling drugs. So
The people was what on the street? What?
we talk about the victims, and if you're robbing drug dealers, there's not really any victims. Although some of them did call the police, but at the end of the day, they shouldn't have been selling drugs. So that's a lesson. That's a lesson for drug dealers. Don't sell drugs and you won't get robbed.
Sorry, can you just turn your phones down? Please put your phone on silent or vibrate, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I can second that. I never actually felt to say sorry, or I felt the need to say sorry because it was my environment. It was where I actually got brought up. It was the only thing I didn't know. I never actually see myself as a victim. I kind of saw myself as the perpetrator because of the people who I was with. I was mixed. I was kind of like in the middle. So I wasn't a part of gangs, but I was around very unruly people, and I was just a part of the environment. That's all I didn't know. I didn't know about working a 9 to 5. I didn't know about getting up early in the morning to go to a job and do these things. The lifestyle, the road lifestyle, was just normal. It was just a part of my makeup, of who I was, you know. Yeah, so I never actually felt the need to say sorry. One thing, just by hearing what Letitia was saying, of how it affected me, I was a drug dealer, and when being a drug dealer, I was quite paranoid because of the amount of weight I used to have around me, and I know that affected my relationship, because I never used to sleep. I used to be very light sleeper. A little knock on the door, I was up. I remember my partner at the time, if she tried to touch me in my sleep or something, I would jump up. I could easily hit her or something, do you know what I mean? But that's just because of my environment, the weight I had around me. Couldn't trust no one, couldn't trust no one. So that's, I can say in that way, that kind of affected me in that way.
Sorry, it's interesting. One of your books is called A Product of My Environment.
Yeah. And to add to what the two fellow speakers have said, I'm a believer of, if I do something that warrants a sorry, then I will say sorry. But my particular crimes were not directed at my community. It was more governmental sort of crimes. So, there's no reason for me to say sorry. I was able to bob and weave. By the time, and this is something that I forgot to add earlier, a lot of these young people committing crimes, they haven't even studied how to play the game of crime or criminal justice system that is associated with crime. They don't know anything about the law. But by the time the police caught up with me, I had studied the law enough to know how to bob and weave and negotiate myself out of a particular situation that I was in. So, there was no need for me to say sorry. That's
So when you guys say it's use a product of your environment, is that based on where you live? Is that talking about your parents? Is it talking about your peers, your cohorts, your school? The area.
Yeah, for me, both. I would say when you're the middle sibling, I don't think you should be blamed for anything. If you're the older one, then you take some blame. So I would blame my older sibling. Because if he had behaved himself, then I wouldn't be who I was.
So are you saying that you was impressionable?
Well, I didn't want to be a victim, so I followed suit.
But then that's saying then, because short of talking about your older siblings, does that mean then that all of the younger siblings would then follow their older siblings?
No, they weren't allowed to do what we were doing. There was a cut-off point. If they would have been able to straighten me out, then I wouldn't have ended up where I ended up. So, you understand, the rest of them that came after us, none of them ended up in prison. None of them are even known. Even you say what you said today, that hardly anyone knows that we're family. You understand? Because that's how we conduct ourselves. Unless you know us, you won't know that we're related to each other, because we'll go out and not even let people know that we're related.
But what is important though, we need to recognise that the fact that we've got three very successful young men sitting at this table today and they've had a criminal background, the journey from there to here is very, very different. And let's not forget that.
But you know, one thing I'll add to that is this. I don't know about the other two panel members, but for me, I believe that you go back to default settings. So whoever you was meant to be in the beginning, even when you're committing crime, you're still that person, but in a different way. But the minute you decide that this is enough for me, the road that you end up walking on, I believe that you would have walked on that regardless. It's just that you had to go and learn something somewhere else before you ended up there. So I don't want anyone to think that, you're doing something and because it's not working out for you, you have to go commit crime to go and learn something. So stay on that straight path, I would have been probably a barrister now. If I didn't have a long strike, I would have been sitting on the bar. So that's something that I just want to put out there, that sometimes people can achieve certain things without going left.
And I must say, you don't know, and Gwenton won't want to say it, but I will say it anyway. Gwenton ran for Mayor of Hackney last year. Because Gwenton is the walking proof that you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it. I'm going to ask you a question, because you know my background. Yeah. Did you blame the police for you getting arrested and being incarcerated?
No, because because I was robbed in drug dealers, the police liked me. In Hackney, we used to come to Lewisham, we used to come over here and rob people. All the robbers were friends with each other. And the police knew who we were. We weren't robbing 9 to 5s. So we never had a problem with the police.
Okay.
You understand? More drug dealers have problems with police or fraudsters, but for us it's like, look, we're actually cleaning up the streets.
Okay.
No,
Modern day vigilante.
I would definitely say for me, I knew that was a part of the package.
Okay.
When I was doing what I was doing, I knew that it was kind of like two ways that I was going to do. It was either I was going to end up in jail, or I was going to end up in jail for either two reasons. One, I would have been getting caught for what I done, or I would have actually taken somebody else's life.
Yeah.
So it was all part of the makeup for me to say, this is the life I was going to live.
And there's a risk associated.
And this is the risk with it. So, you know, I never, as I said, sometimes it's, a lot of people don't actually own up to about who they are and the environments that they're in. And for me, as I said, it was normal. I didn't know nothing else. You know, so yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, with regards to my dealings with the police, or crimes as they like to call them, was more difficult for them to solve. So I made sure that I put a lot of things in place to make it more difficult, because I didn't want to go to jail. I'd heard stories. I wasn't interested in jail, so I was trying to safeguard myself and make sure. And what I was doing was something that no one needed to know about. Me and the person, that's who it is. So when I was making my money, no, I wasn't a guy that was out and flashing about the place. Get me? I was doing my thing quietly, and I'm just able to live my life comfortably. I'm not hurting no one. No one hurting me.
But one thing that you've all got in common is you've lost time. You've had time taken from you in your life. That's your one common.
Well,
You did Bert?
I was captured twice, but I passed my case.
You haven't done Bert?
I haven't done Bert.
Prison, sorry. That's the language. Okay, well, congratulations. You managed to survive the past.
I think one of the things I want to add onto what you just said there, a lot of these young drug dealers nowadays think that you could just drug deal, because they don't understand the other part what you just said. There's someone that will come and take your drugs, and if you think you're a tough guy, you might get something before the event starts as well. And I think this is a part of the game where nobody tells these new young people about that are out there thinking they could get up tomorrow and go drug deal. There's people sitting there waiting. And you will get shot, and your mum will get shot as well, because if you're selling drugs, you're not meant to talk to the police. So if your mum gets shot, your mum also is meant to follow the rules. And what we're seeing is we've got a generation that start selling drugs, and when they get shot or stabbed, they call the police. That's not a part of the rules. And this is why young people need to stay away from selling drugs. If someone's forcing you to sell drugs, then go and seek refuge at the first point. Because when we hear about a young person get shot or stabbed, it sounds bad, but that's a part of the lifestyle that if you're going to do drugs, you're going to get shot and stabbed. Your mum will get shot and stabbed, and your sister, and your dad, and your grandma when she's coming out of church. It's a part of the game. And then if you shoot the person, they're also meant to follow the rules. And rules are don't call the police. And this is the different.
Hold the phone.
No, it's
So you just said that the parents are not supposed to call the police either.
Why?
This is what I was talking about in terms of impact your life. You are dealing in negative elements, and I'm supposed to not call the police. I've told my people around me, don't let me know what's going on, because I will call the police. Because if I'm going to be put at risk, I'm not going to be put at risk. I've cried too many times. I've gone to bed and cried too many times for other people's lives, because of the pain that it causes me and those around me. And I've gone to too many funerals and worn too many black clothes because of the lives of other people. I'm not following your rule because that's your rule in your life. Why should we expect it?
You're not in the game. You're not in the game.
No, you're a civilian.
Listen, you're civilian.
This is the thing, you can call the police. I'm just saying the mindset of people that live that life. Mums, sisters, grandmas, and children are civilians. But what I'm saying is, when we see on the news that civilians get hurt, we shouldn't be surprised, because this is something people sign up to. Not everyone willingly goes to drug deal. Not everyone willingly goes and robs people. But it's a part of the rules. You understand? When I got shot, I couldn't go and tell the police. They came to me and said, please tell us who it is. Furthermore, we know who shot you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No one got shot.
And that's the bit that parents don't know.
This is the part of it that when I've got home, my family asks me, oh, what happened? Nothing. It's a
So
part
then
of the
you
game.
become, so when your parent is there crying because you almost died, you are then safeguarding the person that commit that crime towards you.
No,
No, you safeguard the family.
If you've agreed to play a certain game and then you get injured in the process, it's like playing football and someone tackles you really hard. You can't then complain about that. If you're not signed up to play that and then you get injured, then you go to police. And I think that's another thing that this new generation's got confused. They will stab someone, and when they get stabbed, they call the police. How many people have you stabbed before you got stabbed? How many people has your friends stabbed before you got stabbed? And we need to look at association. You don't have to be selling drugs to get kidnapped. You don't have to be selling drugs to get injured. Your friend just has to be selling drugs. And we just need you to call your friend because it's your best friend. It's association as well. And it's still the same thing if you go to university or you work. You can't then be hanging around the people on the roads.
Yeah.
So when you get injured, what's your family going to say? Oh, you're a working man, or you go to church or you go to prayers and now you're getting shot because you're hanging around the people that are out there doing what they're doing. So association is a big part.
And that's the reality bit that people fail to realise, that just by being in the game, you are putting other people around you at risk. And then when we talk to young people in schools about that, we talk about the community and the family impact of your behaviour, your choices, your crime. And that's so important. And I'm glad you said that, because I was getting a little bit thinking, wow, this is the life, man. Pretty out the top of the table. But the reality is, A, you commit a crime, you will get captured at some point in your time. Simple as that. Okay? No one gets away with it. Especially black as well. You will definitely get it.
Remember mental health as well, because that's something that we need to emphasise on. There's not people out here that have killed people and not gone to jail. They might not be able to sleep at night.
Yes.
So certain times the impact of the lifestyle that you live catches up to you later in life. I've seen 50-year-olds get murdered after robbing and kidnapping people 30 years old. Yeah. And that's just a part of the life. So your mental health, I think, is one of the biggest things. Not everyone, when you decide to leave that lifestyle, is able to mentally remember being out there. And I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about.
The trauma remains throughout the rest of your life.
And especially when you can't make the money.
Yeah.
That will make you stress.
I've seen people's mental health deteriorate over a period of time because of the stuff that they've done in the past.
And the fear that a knock on the door could come at any point, even though it's not over. It's never over, you're saying.
Yes.
It's never over.
Not just being broke. Imagine going from £1,000 jeans to Primark jeans. That alone will make someone not want to leave their house. The first time you cannot walk and buy whatever clothes you want, that could be the most depressed you've been. I remember the first time I went to, I can't remember the name of the shop, I put my hood on. There was TK Maxx around them. I didn't want to be seen in them. And then when I got to the tour, I've said this before, I got caught right by the tour. And I wish the world opened up and saw me up because I didn't want no one seeing me in that place there. And that's something people don't talk about. When you're used to money, the minute you can't get that money again, some people cannot cope with that. Yeah, that's one of the most darkest things. Forget prison. Prison is not even as painful as being broke.
No.
Being broke is worse than 20 years in jail.
But there's people in prison making money, so let's not get twisted.
No, but I'm saying, if you come out after 20 years in prison and then you're broke,
That's your sentence.
That's worse than doing the 20 years in prison.
So the message is, and I'm loving this part of the message, that we continue telling people that actually crime is not the right path, no matter how you bend it, no matter how glamorous it looks, no matter how you three guys sitting at that table are so successful and you're changing the lives of others, it's still not a path to take. Because just imagine what you would have done without having to keep looking over your shoulder for many years, what you would have done by not taking time from you, and what you would have done by not having time for you, would have allowed you to even be maybe greater, better than what you are. And Gwenton's right. He could have been embarrassed. He's one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. But he took the wrong path. But he's coming back. Any questions from the front? It's really important, this, because we want to hear we heard real stories from Jacob, and I wish Jacob was sitting here, because there's something forgiving about Jacob's story, and he talks about it in such a way that he knows who he's let down on his journey, and that's really powerful. But if we're going to change the choices our children make, or our friends make, or our family members make, or anybody make, we need to be armed with the information that helps them understand that one choice can impact on 3 or 4 people's different lives, and we need to be able to have that message with them. Any questions from the floor? Miss Oliver.
I'd like to hear something more about joint enterprise.
About joint enterprise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just,
okay.
that's left out.
Can we park that for 1 second? Anything else? Because joint enterprise is quite complicated. But they can tell you more about it. From my perspective, I'll be honest, I believe in it. But I can understand why some don't. But if we've got no question, we can.
When you say you believe in joint enterprise, is that in terms of the sentence of joint enterprise and the IPP, or are you talking about something else?
I'm talking about if one boy is stabbed and 6 boys are standing there while he's being stabbed, they should all go to prison for murder. Right. And I'm going from the victim's perspective, from the crying mother whose child was killed while others stood and watched. That's the bit for me.
And have you taken in, I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with you, but at that same point, have you considered what may be happening for those other boys that are standing there that are powerless to intervene for fear of also being stabbed?
If they're powerless, that will come out in the process. If they're aiding and abetting, I'm talking about aiding and abettors, I'm not talking about the people that are powerless, I'm talking about people that are encouraging it or part of it, involved in it. We've seen 5 or 6 kids kicking the one stabbing.
Okay.
The one who passed a fatal blow should not be the one that pays the price.
Okay.
But I disagree with somebody who's in Coventry and there's someone stabbed in Lambeth, but they've got a text message to say it's happening and they get arrested for joint enterprise. I disagree with that. I think that's too long.
They could have been part of it. They could have been part of the setup. I saw Imran Khan? He was in a restaurant and his watch got stolen, £70,000 watch when he came out of there. Amir Khan, that's it. Oh, that was it, boxer. And there was 2 guys in there, and they were saying, well, you was on your phone. And the guy's defense was, well, people are on their phones when they're out. How is it that because I was in there at the same time and that I was calling, I took a call, is that I was setting up Amir to get robbed when he left the place. So he almost got done for, I don't know if he did it or not, but he got let off because he was saying that basically it's not a crime to be on your phone when you're out in a restaurant.
And that kind of explains, I get that, but the bit for me is, I've seen too many mothers crying for their son's life being taken while other people stood by and watched it happen or allowed it to happen. So that for me, I'm from the victim perspective, not from the police perspective, from the victim perspective. And Amir Khan gets his watch taken, so be it.
It's just an example. It wasn't about him, it was more about the person and how the association that was derived to them because of what you talked about, the text message being received in a different place.
But I also, one to
I'll say mixed views. One, I don't agree with it, and I'll tell you why I don't agree with it. Understanding the law is about you proving someone guilty. With joint enterprise, the judge 9 out of 10 times bullies the jury to find everyone guilty. So there might be one person where there's least evidence on them, but because you come as a bundle, everybody gets found guilty. That's the point of joint enterprise that I don't agree with.
I agree.
Yeah, so regardless if whether it's a murder or stealing a sweet from a shop, if you cannot prove someone guilty, and that's why it says justice is blind, the law says unless you've got 100% proof, even if someone murdered or done the most horrendous crime, they have to go to jail. That's the law. On the flip side of it, if you're with your friends or whoever and something happens and you go to jail, what happens is once people end up in court, it's everyone for themselves.
Yep, they give up
that's,
anyway.
that's all it is. So before the court business, everyone was ready to go. It's like having 5 people in the car, there's 1 gun. So you got the driver and 4 other people. So 3 people are willingly getting carried to jail because there's only 1 gun in the car. So you're going to do a murder, 1 person got a gun, 1 person driving, you drive past, 1 person shoots. 3 participants in that car are just going to jail just because probably 2 of them didn't want to be there or 1 didn't want to be there. But
Or didn't even know that there was a gun in the car.
Yeah, even that as well.
And I think when I say joint enterprise, and I'll come back to you in a second, I think you're right. I think every individual needs to be proven to reasonable doubt that they are participating in that crime. And where joint enterprise is blanket, there's a lot of people sitting in prison now under joint enterprise that are innocent. Let's get twisted. And that's where the joint enterprise, but it wasn't designed to catch knife people, it was designed to catch the OGs, the higher people up the top end of the exploitable chain. So when somebody was, those roadmen.
In America, they call it like RICO charge.
Yeah.
Like you see these rappers, like Young Fog guy in jail, and all his friends are going, even for just rapping some people go to jail. So it's like they tried to use joint enterprise like how the Americans use the RICO charge on like mafias.
Yeah. Your question, sir.
Yeah, well, first of all, just the panelists, the opportunities and what's been shared and just the resources and the experience and wisdom has been great to kind of take on board. But in listening to what you're saying, my background is in mental health and education, mentoring, and I'm staunch, advocate for community activism, but on the side of revolution as opposed to reform. So as I'm listening to how the prison system is, how the criminal justice system is, and the court system, it just always makes me go back to my mind's thought of what if we had our own, or what if we have our own, just like the City of London, just like when we look at communities where the Jewish communities are actually paying the police to be police officers within their area. I'm just interested into the thoughts of any of my brothers here about the ideas of us, because owning a prison is big business, right? You make loads of money, and as entrepreneurs, not to say that's the way we should be going down, but I'd rather we handle.
Someone else is doing it.
Pardon?
Someone else is making the money out of it, so why?
Yeah. So I'm interested in knowing, imagine where, like what Brother Benton's saying about if you're in this game, then you kind of know, and as the brother says, you know what you're kind of getting yourself in for most of the time. So imagine there being a prison where it actually rehabilitates you, where you actually, and I mean, I've just finished working in Pentonville, ISIS, and Thameside quite a bit, and some of the Circle, which do a lot of their big business, they do a lot of work in there, and some good works as well. But I'm just interested in the idea and thoughts around us having our own prison. Say the young person that's either been stabbed or stabbed, and either one of them, they go to prison, but they know that prison actually is going to rehabilitate judge and the jury is saying, the solicitors are saying that they're talking a language which I'm talking about painting a narrative, a world view that says that we are in control of what our courts look like, the language that's used. And I know that goes into a little airy-fairy of, having our own policies and laws and so forth. But I'm interested into whether anyone, our brothers here or anyone here, is interested of us having our own type of institutions.
Okay.
I would.
Is that related to the question or not?
Of course it is.
Okay. Well, the panel's got to go first, though.
Sorry.
The panel. We'll come back to you in a second.
For me, with regards to institutions, I feel that we should be starting with black schools. Because if we get the black school right, we won't need the black criminal justice system. My personal perspective is based on when I go into schools and I see how many young black children that I have to work with because the educational system has told us that these children are the worst of the worst. And as I sit down with them and I talk to them, I feel their heartbeat, they feel mine. I ask them to do their work and they do their work in peace and quiet, to where the headmaster comes along and can't believe. You get me? That's where it starts for me. Like before the European came to Africa, we didn't have any prisons. So I mean, we have to see the bigger picture from my perspective, in a sense where prison is big business, as you said. Yeah. We've got Serco is, I believe, Theresa May's husband's company. Yeah. And it's in their interest to keep these prisons full at our expense.
That's right.
Yeah? We need to get in there before, we need to be educating our young people. We need to be teaching our young people how to think outside the box in business moving forward, and they won't need criminal justice. My personal opinion.
Okay.
No, and you are right. However, we already have an epidemic of people that are past that. We have our younger children that are at the foundation age, which is primary, and then we have the different levels in secondary, and then we have the PRU, then we have university, college, etc., etc. We can start at foundation, and I'm a firm believer of foundation, because a lot of times we put plasters on things and we try to plaster it on the way up. But if we don't go back to the root cause, the products of the environment, the starting points, but also take responsibility for actions and what parts that we pay attention to that we didn't actually have to pay attention to, what parts we could have said no, where we could have turned around and did something different, we're not going to be able to create change. I heard you say earlier we need to start teaching, but parents are teaching their children. Parents are not all parents, because we can't tarnish all with the same brush, but not all parents are bringing drugs into the home. Not all parents are advocates for domestic violence. Not all parents are going out there teething or whatever. So if we're starting at home and we're trying our best to show our children from the offset the best that we can, and go to school, and we're trying to put them in school and working 2 or 3 jobs to give them the kickers that they wanted, that was back in my days, and the wallabies that they wanted to go to school so that they could look like young children. We're doing these things and the children aren't listening. How much times can we keep on talking to our children and they're not listening? How much times can we keep on following them to the police station and bringing them food at 1 o'clock, or bringing them clothes, or going to the prisons and being stripped naked to go and visit our children that are in prison and being degraded, and bringing our children in there, the babies that are also having to go through that, and they're still not listening. As Jacob said, 23 years of his life. You heard what he said for those that was here. One of the key things that he said that actually changed his life around was his mum saying to him that she sleeps better at night knowing that her son is in incarceration. In a room that is tiny, I don't know how big it is, but I know that it's small. 1 man or 2 man or 3 man sharing 1 pit hole of a toilet that doesn't have a curtain. When you're in your luxury of your home, you close the door. How many men they talk about that in America, dropping the soul and all that drama and all this kind of thing, your dignity. And And that's your dignity for you that's actually incarcerated. But the dignity for us that has to come up there and visit you and take time out of, for our jobs, our lives to come and do that. The money that comes out of people's pockets to send to you to make sure that you can live comfortably in that system and that industry.
So, Marco, can you back to what are you
Oh,
proposing?
so what I will say.
So I've lost
I
it.
hear what you're saying, what's this part?
Right, no, so what I was going to say is, sorry, I went somewhere else,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I will, because that's who I am. But the other side of it is, if you remember, Quentin, I came to you about a year ago and said the same thing about prison. Do you remember?
I don't want nothing
It's
to
doing it, yeah.
Sorry,
I
I
came to
feel
it.
like this turns back the clocks and it just like our ancestors fighting for us to be like joined with races and we're trying to like turn it back and segregate ourselves. Don't you feel like?
I was just going to come on that point, and this is what I was going to say to that, yeah, and because we're live streaming, this is Chris. So Chris is the one that wants to start the school. Don't come and attack me. I don't want to start.
Look, this is what, no. But listen, this is my take on it. The school system has our children for the best part of every day except for the weekend.
And
So-
95% of our children do not enter the criminal justice system and go through exactly the same schooling system. So where's...
I tell you what I think it is. I think sometimes it's the 1% that is then.
It's a powerful influence.
Yeah, the 1%. So if we've got 100 people that go to school don't get in problems, the one person that gets into problems oversights the other 99 people. My thing, what I believe is this. I believe that structures and costings, and I'm answering your question here, yeah? Structures and costings and timescales and returns. You get what I'm saying. Even a drug dealer understands that language.
I'm not trying to
No, I'm saying even
Yeah,
a
I know.
drug dealer understands that language. So we're not going too technical. The reason why, and the amnesty, I'm going to tell you why the amnesty is a powerful point. This is what I'm fighting for. If the government gave me power today, I'll give every drug dealer amnesty. And what I'm calling the amnesty is this. So if you've got £100,000, maybe a mil, we've seen people with £50 million in Forest Hill under their bed, got caught because of the Inco trap. If you've got millions in your house now from illegal proceedings, I want an amnesty that you could keep that money, yeah, under the terms that you invest your money into something that is positive. So let's say then you decide that whether cannabis, everyone's now growing cannabis legally. If you decide that you want to take your drug dealing money to invest into cannabis, which then gives other people opportunities and jobs, I think that should be allowed. If somebody wants to set up a security company that then matches G4S and Circle and NACRA and that, and could do the same functions as those large companies, G4S has got some of the best prisons in the country. And there's returns where someone knows, if I give you 500,000 in the next 6 months, I'll get back my money legally. We will see a reduction in drug dealing. We will see a reduction in crime, and also that plan that you've got there doesn't need to go and ask for government funding. And it's empowering other people to do the right thing.
To me, we're having a redundant conversation.
But we need the amnesty. The first thing that's the problem here is going to be finances. The finances are not the problem. Yeah? Because there's two ways we can get this money. The police take money off people every day. So we could access the pocket fund. They could give us back some of the proceeds of Crimes Act to start this. But if we got the amnesty for certain people that are sitting down on cash that they can't move, then you could then move forward with that plan. That person then legitimizes their old business and no longer has to worry about the police removing their money, and they no longer have to commit crime because they'll be getting a return that is bigger than what they'll be doing illegally.
Okay. Your question, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, but it's like we complain that there ain't enough like black people in the legal system and all of that. But we went on your site and the first thing we see is a picture of a black man playing basketball. Like, how realistic is that? It's not at all.
Oh no, but the idea of the site is to engage young people to go to the
Yeah,
site.
but at the same
It's not,
time,
it doesn't play a
no,
stereotype.
but at the same time, it's depicting an image, and to young minds, they're taking it in. Do you get what I'm saying? Oh, this is all I can do. Basketball or this type of shit. Do you get it? So it's like,
I take your point, and I agree with your point. That's what the interpretation
we need to
is
be going
to
to
you.
schools and letting them know it's possible. Do you get it? Because a lot of people reach an age and they don't even know it's possible. Do you get it? Like, forget all the amnesty things and all of that, because we're still just talking drugs. Like, we need to let them know it's possible to be going into space and you get it, being a scientist and all of this. Like, if we're not doing that early, then of course we're going to have problems.
But sometimes it's a common term. You need a hook to hook somebody into something. You need a hook. If you don't have a hook, some people don't even go beyond it. So sometimes you've got to create the hook. And when you get past the hook, the opportunity is there. So what websites like that do, forget mine for a second, what they do is they offer the opportunities for young people to find it. Because 4.2% of black people engage in apprenticeships. That's disgusting. We need to get more into apprenticeships. And if we can hook them into the website, people are using gaming characters. My son's doing an e-sport degree at the present moment in Birmingham University. E-sport degree. Didn't have to degree, it was a game. But he's doing that degree, but it hooked him into the gaming, hooked him into the degree. And he will get a degree at the end of it and be in the world of e-sport, which is the future. Sometimes you have to create hooks to get people to know there's something behind that hook for them. You can't catch a fish without a hook. And that's my hook.
What's good with what you just said there is this. That's a young person's voice. So now we take that away and remove that basketball thing off there. And then you then suggest what you think should be on there.
Now, why can't it be like we don't even see in the media a lot of black men in suits going to work? You get it? Like last time we got that shit was what, Fresh Prince? You know what I mean? But that was a comedy. Even still, like we don't get it fed to us.
Well, this,
Stick a pin, actually, because one of the things that you just mentioned, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was mentioned. Chris, do you want to go back to what you said about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and how the impact that had on you?
Yeah, I mean, Fresh Prince for me had at the time I loved it. Like, loads of my generation love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But what I see in hindsight with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is it created a narrative. Before Fresh Prince, we had the Cosby Show. Cosby Show was Bill Cosby was a doctor, wife was a lawyer, all the children was college. Like you couldn't be a waste man and go to that house. You was getting run from the yard straight. So, and our community was following that. And people was taking college, university seriously. And when I think they realized that, yo, listen, people are following this. This is when they created Fresh Prince. Now with Fresh Prince, you got Will Smith, you got Colton, you got the auntie and the uncle. The auntie and the uncle well-to-do, yeah? But we're looking at Will Smith. Will Smith is the main character. He's a joker. He likes to mess around. Like he's nice with the girls. He doesn't really take his education seriously though. You got Colton, nice with his books, but not so nice with the girls. He wears funny jumpers, moves awkwardly. So what the problem is now, as a youth man in school, who do you want to be? Do you want to be Colton or you want to be Will? Yeah? I wanted to be Will. Now the problem with being Will in school, he's an actor. He goes home when he's finished, everything's nice for him. But me now, trying to be Will in class, messing around, I get thrown out. And I get thrown out, and I get suspended. And then I get expelled. And there's a crew waiting for me when I get expelled. And in that crew, there's other youths that, like me, wanted to be Will instead of Colton. And then we form a gang, and then it's all a mess. Anything can happen from there. So I mean, my point is, like, we got to change the narrative, and I'm the writer of the group, and well, we're all published. Yeah.
They're all published.
Yeah, I mean, I saw late in life the importance of reading, and I think it was important that they wanted to make reading not seem cool when it needed to seem cool. Yeah, they needed to make Carlton more cool at a time when children are impressionable and education is so important. But I believe it was a design that if we make reading look like a job thing and make messing around the cool thing, then not only that, the narrative continued with, you had other movies that also created that drug dealer lifestyle. It gave the blueprint for our young people who had failed in school, in my opinion.
No, but that's more to my point. And that's why I referenced it, because that's the last sort of positive. But even that was a comment. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So that's why I'm saying to this day and age, why are we not portraying it in the media in a more, you know what I mean, in a more sustainable and more people trying to get more of an impact?
What I will say to you is, there's a lot of us, because I put myself in that bracket, there's a lot of us out here that are not struggling, that if you want to meet them, we can make that happen. So I don't want you to feel down and think that every black man out here is struggling. No, but I'm telling you, I ain't struggling, bro.
No, I'm not saying anyone's struggling, but for example, things on the internet, you get it.
What I'm saying to you, forget the internet. Forget that for now. You've got access to proper men around you. You're sitting probably close to people around you that you don't even know, that have contacts around the world. What we have in this country is, if we was in America, a lot of us would be more respected than we are. Mm-hmm. In this country, we're not respected for our achievements as if we went to Dubai. If I left there and gone to Dubai now, I'll be gone. Because someone will be like, well, come, let's do this. In this country, the country is set up in such a way that no matter how good you're doing, even you start doubting yourself. And that's what I want you to understand, that there's loads of people, some people play it down. They might act like they're the simplest person in the room and they're on some serious cake. So what I would say to you is this: leave your contact with us, we stay in contact, and we bring you back in the space where you can be around successful men that are not struggling, so you, as the next generation, don't have that view of, when I was growing up, I was thinking about them older man there, they're broken, man.
No, don't get twisted what I'm saying. I'm not talking about like for you. You get it? Nothing that I'm saying is for you. Like, I'm talking younger than me.
Yeah.
So you get it? Because even I'm doing my thing. I'm not struggling or nothing. You get it? But I'm talking about what we're doing to the kids in school now. Like,
Talk about the images that they're seeing, things they see that doesn't necessarily
We're
empower
getting
them.
fed this media shit nowadays. They got phones 24s.
Well, I guess because going back to what is it Nathaniel was saying in terms of us owning, because when I did come to Brendan with that idea, it was about what you just talked about in terms of us creating rehabilitation. Because people go to are incarcerated, but are they actually rehabilitated? I managed to put 3 men who are 47, 48 onto a engineering course, recently, a rail engineering course. And they have been very thankful because just like Jacob, 23 years, I think he last came out of prison last year, this guy, and he's 47 now. And he went back to prison because he didn't see a way out. He was trying, but he kept on going back to crime and selling drugs. And he got caught because he wasn't good at it. And that's how I see it. Because if you're going to do something, do it properly so you don't get caught. And he is so happy right now for the opportunity that I gave him, despite transferring a telephone number and enabling him to get on the rail engineering course that he can complete in 8 weeks. That gives him direct access to a job once he's completed it. And he's like, sis, thank you so much, because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel right now. You know? But what he did say to me, and the reason why I mention it, is that he's commented that he was inside, him and his cellmate was inside, and they put their name down for these courses, because I've got a list of different courses that you can do when you're in there. But you don't necessarily get an opportunity to do those courses. So he's been in there, he's been back, he's been forth, but he hasn't been rehabilitated because he wasn't able to access the so-called services that were employed inside the prison system to help him to turn his life around. So he's had to come back out time after time after time, and only now, at the age of 47, well actually it's his birthday the other day, so he must be 48 right now. where we are now, so we can continue to filter, and that's why this project, I'm inspired, and I see the table's here, because so we can get those voices to speak to those that need to hear the stories, that need to be motivated, that need to be inspired to create changes that we are talking about. Our community is in, what's the word? Where it's fragmented, it's in a disarray, it's in a lot of things, you know, but we always talk about coming together. There's so much things, but we come together for the wrong things. We come together because there was a girl got beaten up in school. I'm not disregarding none of that. But what I'm saying is when we're supposed to come stand up and make a change, we're not doing it. There's lots of things that's going on in our society right now, but when you look at who's standing up, it's not our culture. As you said, our culture fought for a lot of things back in the day. When you go back to the 1981 riots or 1984 riots that happened in Brixton that they're going to be celebrating next month or the month or whatever it is, what was the reasons for that? Why did that happen? Why was there the uprising of the black people? Because we wasn't given those opportunities, and at that time, black people had enough. But we haven't had enough. We've given up. We don't care no more. We're tired of fighting, so we just lie down now and whatever, if every man for himself.
Most are tired of fighting.
Well, okay, we speak in okay, my apologies. But I don't mean to, I give everybody an opportunity. I don't tarnish all with one brush. Okay, so excuse me if I sound like I'm putting people into one boat, but that's not my ethos and that's not what I am about. Everybody deserves an opportunity. Everybody deserves a second, third, fourth chance, because we are products of our environment, and sometimes it's that one piece of information. Jacob was sitting here in the audience afterwards and he said, you know what, I'm going to go back, I heard what somebody said and I'm going to take that back and I'm going to consider. Because he said, Chris said it, he said, what is, his talk was about his thoughts and his beliefs. And Jacob said that, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to think about what are my thoughts and what are my beliefs. Because he's changed his life around and he's going around and talking in schools, but he's not clear on what his thoughts and his beliefs are. So he's now been empowered and inspired. He said it several times, he's been inspired since he's been here, to go back and look at some of what he's doing and how he's thinking about his life and what it is that he's doing. Do you get what I mean? So we can continue to learn every single day, but it's what you want to do with that learning. How do you want it to impact on you? How do you want to make a difference for yourself, but equally for your community? So yes, having a system, a rehabilitation system where we can educate, motivate, inspire, and create entrepreneurs in whatever area would be an excellent thing for us as a community. Most definitely, because prison doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. So your idea is valid and it is important. But what happens in our community is that we are scared of, or we're not interested in getting the crab in the barrel, but we always want to be the first one to do it first. We don't want to copy nobody else. I'm not copying man. What? Man, how many loaves of bread is there in the shop? How many different brands is there in the shop? There's over 10 brands all selling the same thing. I bought some beans that cost 24p the other day. My friend said, we come with 24p beans. I said, listen, we are black people. We don't cook beans how they sold in the shop. We season that up. Yeah? I've been testing these beans and I saw a test of beans and it said Heinz came 6th in the list. Liddell's beans came first. Do you understand? So why am I spending £1 on Heinz beans when Liddell's beans at 54p is tasting better? Because it's full of sugar. When I come put my seasoning in my beans, my garlic, my all-purpose and my spring onion, my beans don't taste like 24p beans. You don't know what beans you're eating because I've recreated those beans. So it's about what are you creating for yourself and for your community. Yeah? What is it that you're creating? What do you want to create? We talk about coming together, but we don't want to come together. On one hand we do, but we're scared of it because we don't want no one to take what we've created.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because I do want to pick up something you said. And thank you very much, Gwenton, for re-evaluating my thinking. Point taken. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes how the imagery that we portray needs to engage, not necessarily block people. So we'll take that back. I mentioned the blackgovernors.org site. Blackgovernors.org was created to encourage black people to become school governors, to be part of the change in the education system that isn't ours. It's not ours. But we can't change it from the outside, we can't change it from the inside. I wish everybody would train to be teachers and we have more black teachers in schools than we've got in this present moment. it's not the best job in the world, some people won't do it. So we need to be part of that change, but we need to also create opportunities for other people to have success in change. Because what's difficult for young people is, what's drawing young people into this negativity is the imagery that exists in society. And we know that social media, when you get to my age, even though I'm into social media is it's blocking older people more often than engaging older people. So we've got to understand the media and help change narrative. And it is about narrative, I've said that before. I'm really conscious that it's a panel session and I want a panel to talk. Any questions for them? Yes, Alfia.
I've got a question for the panel. When people release from prison after they selling their drugs, they're doing whatever they're doing, they do trafficking, whatever, and they come out and they end up in a mental institution, how do you work with those people? Because they're traumatized. They have issues what they haven't explored and they need to speak to someone, but they find it difficult to deep dive to say how they're feeling. How is the panel going to address that or talk to parents to say how do they come? Because they come back out and they start to do domestic violence in the house. They start to beat up their mom, beat up their dad. Mom wants to run out of the house and so on. These are some of the things that are happening in our community right now as I'm speaking, where young boys are beating up even their grandma and their mom because they don't like when we go back to the African way of teaching them.
It's a big question.
I can say something from that because I work in the medical field at the moment, or the mental health environment at the moment. And one of the main things is about the support service or the support network around that individual. So, say for instance, alright, so I deal with mainly employment, but at the same time, it's about the whole services that is involved with that person to help him for that transition. So where you might have a physio or a psychiatrist, or you've got another medical person, one of the things that I've realised is that what works best if all parties are involved with that one individual to help them with that journey, especially around mental health. And that's one of the things that kind of fails a lot of individuals, especially when they have a mental breakdown, is that not all services are involved with each other. Yeah, that is one way where I've seen that works best in helping individuals for their recovery and to get back into the community.
That brings up another point that Brenton raised about cost. Because that kind of work.
The money's there. The money is there. It's just recently, as you see, junior doctors have got a pay rise. Prior to that, NHS England have been pushing millions into the NHS system in supporting people around mental health.
Okay.
But one of the main factors is that the services itself has a certain time limit to actually work with someone, and that's where it kind of fails someone. There's only a period, as in after 6 months, it starts to break down after that.
And it's even less in children, because if children don't engage in CAMS in 6 weeks, they're taken off the list. So there's no support there whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it didn't work.
It takes up to 8 to 12 weeks for somebody to actually even start to speak in counselling. I'm a counsellor and life coach as well. And it can take you up to, and I've gone through counselling myself in our community. People don't want to get engaged in counselling because we think, I'm not talking to nobody about my business. And usually as well, that person that you might be talking to doesn't look like you, so you don't feel that you can open up to them to talk about what your problems are and what's happening in your community. But it can take up to 12 weeks alone just for somebody to even say their name or just to even engage with somebody when they're in counselling services.
I think seeing somebody that's clinically trained, not your neighbour or your cousin, is something that even for all my staff, they have to go once a week, and we've got a drop-in service. So whether they need it, even if they've not had a tough week, they still have to go because we don't know what's going on with them at home. And this is why you see a lot of the times you get 6 o'clock phone calls saying, "No, you can't believe that I'm not going to be in today," and they turn their phone off. But really, it's because something's happened over the night which they don't want to talk to you about. But one thing that I will say, because suggest anyone that's not clinically trained to try get in that space. And especially if you haven't dealt with your own issues, to try and help somebody else that's going through a tough time. I remember going into Moseley Hospital to visit a young girl who had been self-harming, and I've met her after she's done that stuff, but until I actually went into the Moseley Hospital and saw what it was like in there, I realised that I'm not qualified to be doing what I'm doing. And sometimes some of us will think that we're ready for certain environments. Even doing this job, I always say to people when they say, oh, I want to come and work with you, I'll let them know I don't work in a youth club. The work I do might change your life. That client that you got might be dead tomorrow. Or they might murder somebody else or want to murder you. You understand? So it's not the sort of job that it might look fun or look exciting, but it gets dark. And there's limited time that you can do this sort of work. So I always say to people, understand what you're getting involved in, and don't just get involved in it because you think you know how to do it. Because when it gets dark, it might stop. I've got a social worker now, lost one of her clients, and she's been off work for weeks. Mm-hmm. And I doubt it. The way that things are looking, she was already having problems at work, much less this death. So the fact that she lost a client that she's known for over 30 years is someone that she's met again through doing her work, and now he's gone. That's knocked her for six. She's not answering her phone. She's gone totally off the grid. I'm actually going to come back to work, and she's agency as well. So when you're agency, you start taking 2-3 weeks off. Sooner or later, you're gone, and she knows it. So I would always say, leave the people that are clinically trained to deal with that space, and you deal with what you are able to deal with, and leave other people to deal with what they specialise in.
And what you can do to answer your question, Anthea, is there is this, we're always good at signposting people to the right services. So sometimes you may know somebody you can signpost to. Signpost is more effective than you talking, not knowing what you're talking about. Signpost. Anything from the floor? Yes, madam.
It's not a thought, it is, are there any preventative measures in place before, so talking about mental health, for example, to protect that person and guide that person before that person gets into that situation of mental health?
Is it a situation of the chicken and the egg? Which one comes first?
Yeah, you never know, but we know that they've got KOOTH out there, KOOTH for young people, where they can safely go online. We've got other people within the community that do breathing exercises. We've got people in the community that are counsellors at a reasonable rate. And I think that people need to look at counselling as a way of life, because if you was in America, everyone goes and gets counselling. Even if your neighbour looks at you wrong, you call your counsellor. But in this country, counsellors looked at as if you're a mad person. And I think that's what we need to do, is change that, because some of us are walking around with delayed PTSD. So although we're no longer in the traumatic state, we're walking around with the trauma, pretending we're okay until something happens. So I think people need to understand that there's nothing wrong with that. Even whether it's younger family members acting a certain way, having a psychosis episode, it can happen to anyone.
My 7-year-old boy is currently in counselling now because they have anxiety issues. But more and more young people, the ages 17 to 19, because of COVID, are suffering with anxiety issues. So but the only reason why he's got counselling is I can afford to pay for counselling. Otherwise, to wait for the system to kick it in, it won't happen. What's better now, post-COVID, and many findings around trauma, more and more people are being trauma-informed, practice-trained. So once upon a time, Samaritans, if you call Samaritans, they signpost better than they used to. Sometimes a Samaritan will talk to you and make you feel better, but you don't feel better because when you put your phone down, it goes back to the same place. But they're very good at signposting. So I know I keep knocking on the whole signposting word, but basically getting better at doing that. Mental health is a massive minefield at the present moment.
What I would say is that I think when it comes to mental health, the message isn't clear when it comes to mental health. When people hear mental health, that stigma or what people see, especially if you live in the South of London, you might see someone screaming or shouting on the road. But mental health, there's bad and there's good mental health. And I think that's where a lot of us, we need to try to understand about the mental health as well, because, all right, me getting up in the morning or praying or listening to music, that's good mental health. So there's many, as you know, from men, we don't talk.
Yeah.
So everything that we have, we deal with it internally. And that alone can either be bad or it can turn to a good mental health. But it kind of goes to the bad mental health, because you've got no one to, if there's no outlet for someone to talk to. So I think mental health in general, that does need to either be looked at as the way how mental health is actually pushed out to the general public.
I think I launched a campaign about 18 months ago to set up a direct line, because someone did it in America, for anybody who calls a mental health issue. Instead of calling the police, you call a mental health line and get a mental health specialist to go to that address rather than a police officer who has no idea about mental health. They won't buy into it because it's too expensive, so it's not going to happen. But mental health is a challenge for many, more people, and how we, all of us that are on social media who do what we do, make mental health a priority. And when you present mental health, present it in a bright format, not in a dark format, because sometimes you see mental health adverts, they're very dark, aren't they? And it also feeds into the mental health. So mental health is always going to be a problem. I think schools need to get better at it, not very good at it. The paediatric mental health support is more or less non-existent. By the time it comes in, it's too late, the child's really broken, and they put it in the system, the other system, which means they never get back into mainstream education. So there's a lot to be done. But we can't solve every problem today. What we can do is give you advice that you can take away to help your young people, or to pass on the message to other young people and other people. I keep saying young people because I'm always in a young person's space, but other people who have, because the subject today is people that have been through the system, who've been released from the system, or is the criminal justice system that have never been incarcerated. It's about making sure that we can offer something, but more importantly, support each other. The last bit we need to talk about is the actual Dragon's Den piece.